With competitive dynamics, we're going to move back to that inside box in the Porter's Five Forces discussion, and we're going to start looking at the nature of rivalry among competitors. We've touched on that before, but somewhat when we discuss the business strategy, we act as if other people don't exist. And now we're going to talk a lot about how other people exist. I hope you like my Dilbert comic on the screen. I think it's kind of fun, and it points out that companies are always looking for an edge as they compete with with their rivals. Now, I'm going to present you with a scenario on this slide, and you're going to feel like it's a little bit contrived, and I'm going to tell you you are going to directly face this during the business strategy game simulation coming up in a few weeks. So the question is, what would you prefer? Would you prefer option A, where you can see you are number 2 in the industry? The total industry profit pools is about $100 million. You have 2 other major competitors. Competitor A is outperforming you significantly with $50 million in profits, and competitor B is significantly underperforming you with only $15 million in profits. And we're going to assume that you're relatively equally sized competitors. So that's option A. Well, would you prefer instead option B? And in option B's case, what has happened is you've not been happy with option A. You've determined that company A has a market that you are not competing aggressively in, that turns out that is their profit sanctuary, and they're making a lot of money in that particular market. So you chose to go and launch an attack into that market with some aggressive promotions. You significantly expanded your market share at the expense of competitor A, who felt compelled to match your promotions, cut their price. Now what was very profitable for them is no longer very profitable for them, and it's not very profitable for you either. You anticipated that they were going to attack in some of your stronger markets. They have. You have had to make some adjustments in your promotions and your pricing. You've retained your market share. When all said and done, you are now the industry leader with annual profits of $30 million. Company B's profits have been cut in half. Company A has been cut in half. Company B has also suffered, though not to the extent. And now you are number 1 in the industry, but your total profitability is less. You went from 35 million to 30 million. So percentage-wise, that's about a 15% cut in your profitability. Which case would you prefer? Option A, where you're making 35 million, or option B, where you're only making 30 million? It's easy to say, well, I would prefer A because I'm making more money, my stock price is probably higher, I'm able to pay greater dividends. All that's true. And yet, with option B, there is a real strong siren's call to be number 1. Plus, there really is some very real facts beyond just being number 1 to prefer option B. Before, your competitors had a significant amount of profits to reinvest into R&D and the like, and you've drained that pool for them significantly. They don't make as much money, and you think that may keep them from perhaps flanking you in other ways. And you may be tempted to say, can I have option C? Option C being where I grow the pie such that I don't take away from A and B, I just end up with a bigger slice of the pie because I've done a better job. And certainly this is what Porter talked about when he talks about good competition. And in essence, what they're saying in good competition is the industry as a whole becomes more attractive and it takes money from other industries, but everybody in the industry profits. And that is indeed what you would like, but it's hard to come by. And so I guarantee you, some of you are going to be faced with this very situation. But I'm going to put this caveat right now. The easiest thing to do, and what virtually every MBA class does, is start a price war. They drain the profit pool for everybody, and you'll hear this analogy again. They bang the submarine off the bottom of the ocean to the floor. They sink that ship so badly it hits the bottom so hard, you're hoping it bounces and doesn't explode. And so later on, as we talk about this topic of competitive dynamics, I'm going to be challenging you to think of ways you can, in fact, get option C, where you grow your profit pool higher than your competitors, and you do it without ravaging industry profits. And so this is the basic idea of competitive dynamics. It recognizes that there are rivalries, there are not monopolies, and that companies are constantly jousting with their elbows to try to improve their position, to either grow their profits, grow their market share, do both, all sorts of things. And they do it through a series of behaviors that are not very hard to understand. And our textbook does a great job of discussing them. So I'm not going to dwell on them in the presentation. That's what we're going to talk about in this chapter. It's a lot of fun. Get ready.